Fam, what is going on? It is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Can I get a roll tide inside the comment box? I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for joining the show right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Today is Tuesday. Today is November 12th. I hope that you are having an amazing day. This is Mercer week. I appreciate you being here. I got a lot going on the show today, but first things first, I wanted to go back a couple years ago to when the GOAT was up at the podium before Mercer. All right, here's the GOAT, and this is what he had to say.
Okay, I think several years ago, it was the 6th or 7th game of the year. We just beat Texas A&M, and people started talking about our team, and I had to bring everyone's attention to what I referred to as rat poison. All right, so now we basically played one half of one game. All right, we went ahead 27-0 in the game. And then it was basically 17-16 after that with 2 stops inside the 5-yard line. And, so we didn't maintain our intensity in the game. So we were affected by the scoreboard. So we haven't proven that we can play for 60 minutes. Then we come out on Monday and really not ready to practice. I guess because of respect we have for the opponent. I don't really know all that. Or maybe it's what they read on social media or in the media or whatever after one half of a game this season. And, then it was hot yesterday. So, so we got every external factor in the world that is affecting our ability to maintain intensity and play the way we need to play and practice the way we need to practice to improve. We got the scoreboard affects us, who we're playing affects us. The heat affects us. The media and what you guys write every day affects us. So, to me, we got to prove that we can play and maintain intensity for 60 minutes in the game, execute, do our job, play hard, finish games, finish plays, do things the way we're supposed to do it. So, I'm really excited about being able to play at home this week. It's great to be back in Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's great to have fans back. I think it's great for our players. I think it's great for our fans. I'd like to congratulate all the guys on NFL rosters, having 70 guys on NFL rosters, not all of which are active, but 13 guys on NFL rosters from last year's team is, really significant accomplishment from a program standpoint, but also from an individual player standpoint. Guys creating value for themselves in their career here, learning what it takes to be successful on a consistent basis, and now having an opportunity to fulfill their dreams is something that makes us very proud and very happy. First and Gold awareness game this week. Obviously something to create awareness for, children's cancer, curing cancer, and we're certainly happy to be involved with, that effort to help with the kids. So
that practice.
Well, we'll see. That's what I want to see. I want to see, do we have leadership? Do we get people to respond? Do people care enough to understand what we have to do to maintain our intensity for 60 minutes in the game, to improve as a team, to do the things that we need to do to improve as a team, to have the mindset that we need to have? We got some guys that are, they're doing the right things. We got, and they're trying to set a good example, and they're trying to pull other guys along. But we also have other guys that, need to pick it up and understand what it takes to practice, what it takes to prepare. Some people have the idea that exertion through the course of the week, some kind of way impairs your ability to play on Saturday. But really, you got to have exertion through the week to be ready to play on Saturday. And the key to that is, how do you take care of yourself? How do you recover? How do you sleep? How do you hydrate? How do you use the Sports Science Center and all the technology we have to help guys recover so that you're going to be good on Saturday? So I think, we got some guys that got it backwards. We're trying to get them fixed.
Go to Charlie Potter.
Fam, what's up? Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Oh my goodness. Hit the thumbs up if you miss Coach Saban up at the podium. Look, I get it. What's past is past, but Coach Saban he was a life coach, right? Like when he was up at the podium, He was a life coach. And Case is right. Look, Alabama is 1-0. They played a complete game against LSU. Now put the blinders on, black out the rat poison, and stay laser focused to every single thing that's at hand. Don't read the rat poison articles. Don't watch the rat poison videos. Stay emotionally level, like Coach Kalen DeBoer has been doing, and continue this journey throughout this season. All right. Now, we do miss the GOAT, but I think what is happening here with Alabama football is, they're playing right where you want them to be at this point in time. So block out the rat poison. I just thought it was fitting to kind of hear from the GOAT this morning after a big victory, because now everybody's starting to talk about Alabama once again. Alabama's back. This is the Alabama team, including this show right here. Here comes Alabama. Watch for Alabama. So I think what the football team needs to do, and it's up to the coaches, is, hey, retain focus. This is Mercer. This is a 9-1 Mercer team. Then you're on the road against Oklahoma, a team that still has pride in performance, that wants to beat you. And then on the back end of that is Auburn, a team that wants to salvage their season by derailing your season, right? So those are the things on the top of the pyramid. And you're right, Case. This team is 1-0 on the season. I appreciate you guys being here. Kyle Anderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Today is Tuesday. Today is November 12th. Here's on the show today. We're talking, it is Tuesday. It is Mercer week. We got the basketball team that was victorious last night, beating McNeese, a really good McNeese. Yo, if you watch that game, that McNeese team, I don't know how many games are going to win. I don't even know how many games they've won so far in the early season. They're big. They're athletic. I think they're favored to win the Southland. That team is really good. I love that matchup last night. Q-Rob out for the season. Keanu Coe out for the season. We're going to talk about what it means for Alabama's defense. Jalen Milroe clocked out at 21.9 miles per hour. I put it 22. That is the equivalent to running a 4.3 during a game, right? And check this out. This is a stat that you can go tell all your friends. Alabama in the last two games, all right, we've been talking about run the ball, right? Last two games, Alabama has rushed from Mercer to LSU, the last two games, 83 times collectively for 583 yards and 10 touchdowns, right? Absolutely wild. And then we're going to take an early look at Mercer. Other trending topics, Kirby Smart refers to Jake Pope, a former player here, as an idiot after jumping around with his friends and family. Now, Jake Pope went on to explain what was happening. Whatever the case is, the guy, look, raise your hand if you haven't done something that's been silly that you can kind of move on forward to. We'll hit on that. College football playoff rankings, we'll preview those rankings. I put together the rankings 1 through 12 based off the last rankings and what it could look like tonight. Remember, tonight, the college football playoff rankings are released this next edition, which will be at 7:30 Central Time on ESPN. We're going to talk about contenders and pretenders, recruiting flip watch. I think there's two guys that are on the verge to flip, one from Alabama to Ole Miss and one from Michigan to Alabama. Talk about Coach Kalen DeBoer's approval rating, and I'll always look for these uploaded on the podcast as well. We put together this yesterday on Veterans Day, but this is our Bama Football Veterans Board. This is an everyday thing that we're going to have on Bama Football on YouTube. We understand that freedom is not free. So these, if your name's not on here, post your name inside the comment box and we will get your name listed. We have, 100,000 subscribers. I think we just hit 110. So there's thousands probably that have served this great country. So we want this board to be so big. So definitely get your name inside the comment box. All right. As we move on with the show, I appreciate you guys being here. This is the game outlook for this weekend against Mercer. This is from North Alabama Storm Chase, a great Facebook channel. 61 for the tailgate, 69 for game time, and the fourth quarter will be 67. As you know, I live here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The weather, I do not want the cold weather to come in, okay? I don't. I don't. I'm not mad about it. Today's workout, this morning it was 57. This morning it was absolutely beautiful. This entire month of November has been wonderful. So the longer the cold away, I'm good with it. All right. But I do rock hoodies constantly. That's my deal. So thank you very much, North Alabama Storm Chase. We'll keep you posted on the weather. But it looks like a fantastic Saturday. So if you haven't had the opportunity to see Alabama football in action, now is a good time. You got Mercer. I would imagine there are some tickets that you could find to watch Alabama in action. Last night, the Alabama basketball team moves to 3-0 on the season. So I was double watching. I had Alabama basketball in McNeese, and I had Tua taking on the Rams. The Dolphins defense, they're pretty good last night. Staff, you look to what the Rams have, and I know some of you follow NFL. I know some of you don't. But, I mean, I thought the Dolphins played some pretty good defense last night. And it was good to see always Tua in action, hooking up with his wide receivers. I mean, Cheetah's a monster, so is Jalen Waddle. All right, last night when you look to Alabama's victory over McNeese, again, this team was good. This team was athletic. Like, I get it. McNeese isn't on the radar by any stretch of the imagination. Big, athletic, really good rebound team, long, lanky. But when you look to the stat details, a couple things I want to point out. That third line right there, you got Grant Nelson, who was he had 22 points, which led the team, 6 of 9 from the field, 8 of 9 from the charity stripe. Now, when you look to Alabama basketball, and they've only played 3 games, I think Grant Nelson started out a little bit rusty. Didn't really see much production. If he's getting closer to 100%, this is the Grant Nelson that we've been waiting for to have a consistent game here at Alabama, because I think last year he started late and we saw what he was able to do against North Carolina, but last night he looked really, really impressive. Sears has 15, but I look to Wrightsell. Now, Wrightsell was another guy that kind of started off a little bit slow in these first 2 games. He was 5 of 9, but most importantly, those 5 of 9 was from beyond the 3-point land. All right, so when you have Wrightsell, who's on and finishes with 15 points, that is really good for Alabama. Surprised to see Mo Diabate have no points. Same thing with Sherrell. Alabama went with their big lineup last night. LeBaron Fallon, the freshman, Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, Cliff Amori. Now, I hit on this last night. Amori is that guy. Don't look to necessarily that point total, but look to what he does around the rim. He is the rim protector. So when Alabama takes on some of these next opponents, viewer discretion is advised. The schedule is loaded with top caliber teams, including a matchup against Purdue this coming Friday. I'll be honest. Look, I mean, last night I think they shot the ball better. This team does not live and die by the 3. They have points inside the paint. Purdue will be tough. Illinois will be tough. Houston will be tough. Rutgers, North Carolina, Creighton. You got to think that, this team will get punched in the mouth, which is fine. The schedule will get them ready. And look, if you've only been like an Alabama football fan, I challenge you and I encourage you to watch the basketball team, because the basketball team absolutely deserves your attention as well. This team is very, very good. All right, as we move into football, you look to this wolf position for Alabama, and you have some guys who are out with the injury, and you have another one who's suspended. So we learned yesterday from Coach Caitlin DeBoer that Keanu Coate is out with a suspension, so he will not be practicing or playing in this weekend's game against Mercer. On the left, you have Q-Rob, who is out this season with an arm injury. What does it mean for Alabama's defense? Well, when you look to the snap count underneath Q-Rob, you see that he played in 246 snaps this season. He has a grade of 86.8, and he has 4 sacks on the season, which lead Alabama's defense. This is a big loss, absolutely. And I think as we look to the teams, and we're going to talk more about the college football rankings on the back end of the season, I strongly feel that the teams that will be playing, I guess, in the quarterfinals and going forward from that are the teams that have quality depth. You're going to continue to see in this long, grinding season guys that are going to be injured, guys that are banged up. How does your depth look? Do you have that next man mentality? If you follow the NFL like I do, this is the time where injuries are every single place, right? Every single team is going to deal with them. Alabama they have 3 guys that are out for the season, right? I guess 4. So let's count them up. Q-Rob is out. Cole Adams is out. You have who else? We got Cole Adams, Q-Rob, Keon Sabb has a foot injury. He's not out for the season. And I guess Jalen Hell, if you want to list Jalen Hell, is out as well. I mean, who knows if we're going to ever get to see Jalen Hell play this year. Hopefully we do, maybe. But you get my point. Like, the injuries do add up at this point in time. But you do see from the graphic here that Quay Russo, exactly, Eric D., out of all the teams that have depth and who can go to the bench, who can go to the subs, it's Alabama. Now, and here's a great example of it right here. Quay Russo, he's played more snaps than Q-Rob, who's a starter. You get what I'm saying? Now he's going to have to turn it up, and you're going to have to call on Yanzi Pierre. And we have no idea what Keanu Coat was suspended for. But if you get him back, there's another added addition. And he's very good as well. But this is a perfect time for Yanzi to come on in a game like this against Mercer. Who wouldn't love to see Yanzi Pierre come on for Alabama? And maybe at this point in time, maybe Noah Carter can get on the field into this game as well. So that's a look at the wolf position for Alabama following the injury news on Q-Rob and the injury news, in the suspension news with Keanu Coat. And I think it is impactful, to be honest. I mean, losing Q-Rob is not good. Cole Adams, look, you don't want any of these players to be hurt, but I think when you look to depth at the certain positions, you have depth at Wolf. You have depth at receiver as well. And you've seen Bray Hubbard step in for Keon Sabb as well at the safety spot, right? There's not a lot of teams. My point is, there's not a lot of teams in college football. Even within, when you start to get to that 8 to 15 ranking, there's not a lot of teams right there that have the depth that can reload like an Alabama, like an Ohio State, right? Like a Georgia. That's when those 5 stars that are stacked on that haven't played come on late in the season and they really step up. And you'll see that from Yanzi Pierre, I would imagine, at some point when he does get his name called, which I would imagine which will be this Saturday. All right, as we continue, we look to our next topic. This really caught my eye. We know that Jalen Milroe is the fastest player on the team. Coach Saban said that going into the game against College Game Day. He said that, if you don't have a plan for Jalen Milroe, you're going to be in trouble. Picture on the right is of Richard Young. I saw this picture of Richard Young and I had to post it. I mean, this is from the University of Alabama. I mean, he kind of like low-key one of my favorite running backs. I love them all, but like I want Richard Young to eat. I love Jam Justice, but like, man, Richard Young, this guy's got it. He reminds me of some of these bigger backs from the past that Alabama's had. Starting on the left, Jalen Milroe was clocked at 21.9 miles an hour. I put it at 22. That comes out to a 4.3 40 time against LSU. Think about this. I would imagine not only is he the fastest player on Alabama's football team, but he is the fastest quarterback in all of college football, period. I haven't checked. Today's Tuesday. I haven't looked at any updated mock drafts. Has anybody looked inside the comment box to any mock drafts, and where is Jalen Milroe falling? Let me ask you. Inside the comment box, do you think that Jalen Milroe will be drafted in the first round or the second round or the third round? Go ahead and post right now, first, second, or third round by just listing first, second, third inside the comment box about Jalen Milroe. And I get it. He's a redshirt junior, so he could come back. He's not going to come back. He's moving on. KTK has him, says he's mocked fourth. Shaby has him up first. Yeah. So, I mean, look, if you follow the NFL, again, there's plenty of teams that need a quarterback. Okay. Angels saying 3 to 6. Mario Gates is saying second. Like I said, I haven't looked at an updated mock draft. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. But I think, like, if you had to ask me right now, who are guys that I would draft in the first round of the NFL, I would say Jahad Campbell, Deontay Lawson, Tyler Booker, maybe Jalen Milroe, and this is first round, depending on his back-end play of the season, and maybe Damani Jackson and Malachi Moore. Those are guys who I think are all in the bubble between that, late first round, second round. Damani's been playing really good, and Malachi Moore, he's been putting together he's put together a really solid season here, a career at Alabama, right? So I think those guys could be late first round, second round type guys. Yeah, so KTK, thank you. Deontay mocked at first round, not surprised. And Jahad Campbell, I mean, he's first round, period. Neil's saying he wants Jalen to the Jets. I mean, the Giants need a quarterback too. All right, so we know he's fast. We know he has a D-ball, whatever. This stat on the right really stood out to me. I love stats and I love analytics and I love numbers. So over the last 2 games, and I've been talking about this, you can check my receipts. The 2 things that I'm going to live off of for the remainder of the season is defense and running the football. I don't care if you run the ball with Jalen Milroe. I don't care if you run the ball with Jan Miller, Justice Haynes, Richard Young, whatever your combination is, run the football. Make that your game plan. Make that your main schematics for every single game for the rest of the season. Win the time of possession, run the football, play good defense, and Alabama has a shot to do whatever they want to do. In the last 2 games, Alabama has rushed the football, get this, 83 times for 583 yards and 10 touchdowns. I think that's the recipe, fam. I get it. The leading receiver in this last game was Jan Miller. If you're a wide receiver, you might not be getting fed the ball right now. You might be blocking downfield. Alabama utilizes their wide receivers as blockers. With that said, they've been trying to get the football a little bit more to Kendrick Law. And I don't think the game plan against LSU will be the game plan going forward for every single game. But my point is that bottom number, 83 for 583 and 10 touchdowns, that's good. That makes us happy. Earl Dixon, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Hey, Neil, what's up, man? We appreciate you being here, too. Here's an early look at Mercer. So going into this Mercer game, this is a rat poison type game, right? Following a big win against LSU, Alabama continues to move up in the rankings. Jalen Milroe is now a first round, second round type guy. All this rat poison is seeping into the brains, right? Saw the exact same thing after Georgia, right? This team's unbeatable, all this stuff. We've seen it all. And then here comes Mercer with a 9-1 record. Nobody's talking about them. Everybody's only talking about really the playoffs. That is the most dangerous thing that, and I would imagine that the coaches aren't doing the same thing that we're doing with the players, right? But our job is to talk about the weekly topics, the teams, look ahead. You can't do this if you're a team, right? The next opponent is the most dangerous opponent. And the most dangerous opponent is really Alabama itself. Like if Alabama doesn't play up to their standard, they could lose 2 of these 3 games. They could very well lose to Oklahoma. And that Iron Bowl is crazy. And how you lose those games is you overlook these opponents. Mercer is 9-1. Okay. Here's a look at their season. So they had a Presbyterian, Bethune-Cookman, Chattanooga, Citadel, Princeton. They lost to Sanford. Right? Okay, we get it. Alabama probably I don't even know if this game gets odds. Do they? Is it what are they, like a 38, 39 point favorite, something like that? Rat poison. Stay healthy. Play your game. Don't worry about other guys getting in. I am going to be watching for what other guys get in the second half. Stay healthy. And let Ty Simpson throw the football. Let Ty Simpson throw the football if there's an opportunity. I just want to see it because we've seen Ty Simpson in the last couple of games and he hasn't thrown the football. And I get it. You're airing out the game. You're trying to get, into the locker room. But I want to see a little bit more of the production from him if there is an opportunity in this game. Right? And that's the number one thing that would piss off Coach Saban and really any coaches. Which players do you expect to play in this game? Well, how do you know we're going to win the game? So there's a quick look at Mercer. All right, headlines from around college football. Everybody saw this story. So on the left, you have Jake Pope, who was formerly here at the University of Alabama. I actually really like this kid's game. There's a video circulating of him, and I saw it. He's jumping around after Georgia lost to Ole Miss. Ole Miss storms the field, and Jake Pope, there's a video, and he's jumping around. So Jake Pope went on social media and explained that this is his longtime friend. And Kirby Smart was asked about it, and he said he's an idiot, and he has more important things to worry about. I don't know how old Jake Pope is. What is he, 20, whatever? All right. He came out. He took accountability for it. Kirby Smart addressed it. And, I think it's a learning lesson that, number one, every single thing that you do is going to be videotaped. Number two, take accountability for your actions. Number three, move forward. And, that's what we take. Was it funny? Oh, yeah, it was funny. I watched it a bunch of times. I was like, damn, that was Jake Pope. He was celebrating, I do think he's a good player. You look at the past players that left the Alabama secondary, he was one of them. I mean, there was countless guys. You can make a whole list of the guys that left from the secondary, right? Like Jake Pope, Earl Little, right? I think that out of all the guys that I felt would have that would have stayed, that would have played, that would have been Trey Amos. Like, and Xavier Brown has done an amazing job this year at corner. He's held it down for being such a young dude. But imagine that, and Caleb Downs, of course, left and got paid or whatever it is, and he's having his season. But just think about for a minute. What if you had Malachi? What if you had Caleb Downs? What if you had Trey Amos? And what if you had Damani Jackson? That could have been, right? I think Jake Pope would have played too. He's good. He's a good player. Anyways, took accountability, move on. All right, kind of moving on to the college football rankings, and these will be released and updated tonight. I appreciate you guys being here. 175 of you up in the house. Quick note. So tomorrow I'll be live from my studio, and then Thursday through Sunday, including the game watch along, I will be in Clayton, New Mexico. My grandfather, as I mentioned, passed away peacefully a couple weeks ago. The services are Friday and Saturday, so I will be out of town. Obviously, I'm a content creator, so I will be having my show from Clayton, New Mexico. We'll test out the Wi-Fi out in the prairie, see how that goes. So, same content will come. Sometime, if you followed my YouTube channel I've been doing this for 8 years. Sometimes I go on vacation, but I still broadcast. I go to different things. I still broadcast. It's part of, the YouTube channel. Here's a look at the college football playoff rankings and the teams based off percentages that could make the playoffs based on ESPN's ESPN Playoff Predictor. Now, tonight at 7:30 Central Time, ESPN will update their new rankings, right? And it's not ESPN, it's the college football playoff rankings. It's a group of people who put the playoffs together. So you have Oregon right now, 95% chance, Indiana 93, Ohio State, Penn State, right? 4 out of the top 5 from the Big Ten. And then you have Alabama with a 76% chance. So look, I went ahead and put together the playoff rankings. This is how I think the rankings will shake out. So this is how the last week's bracket looked. And I went ahead and updated it to how I think it'll look. So remember, seeds 1, 2, 3, and 4 all go to the conference champion winner. So in the last rankings, for example, BYU, they were ranked 9th in the rankings, but they were number 4 because they would be a conference champion in the Big 12. Miami was at number 3 and ranked number 4, but received a bye because they would be a champ of the ACC. Same thing with Georgia at that point in time before they lost to Ole Miss. They would be a SEC champ, right? This is all rat poison talk. But based off kind of the criteria, this is how I have the teams. So Oregon, who right now has a 95% chance to make the playoffs, I have them as number 1. Okay. Number 2, I have Texas. But before I start that, Oregon has Wisconsin and Washington up next. And then the Big Ten championship, should they win those 2 games. Then you have Texas at that number 2 spot. Now, currently, it's interesting. Like, the SEC is bananas right now because there's a 3-way tie for first place. So we'll go into it a little bit, but right now, for the sake of just, looking at this graphic, let's just put Texas at that number 1 spot. Next up, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Texas A&M on the back end at Kyle Field. And I'll be honest, look, if Texas A&M, let's say Alabama beats Oklahoma and Auburn, and Texas A&M stays unbeaten, finished 7-1, including that win on the back end against Texas, the championship in the SEC would be Texas A&M versus Alabama. A lot of football. left, right? BYU, I have them at 3. Not overall, but based on the criteria for the playoffs, they would receive a bye. Next up, they have Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston. They should have lost to Utah, to be honest. And then I have SMU. The reason I have BYU over SMU is because BYU beat SMU head-to-head. Now you have SMU with a 38% chance. Next up, Boston College, Virginia, and Cal. Who would have thought they would have just jumped into the ACC and then go undefeated, right? And I mean, look, the thing about it is SMU and Miami will probably play each other in the ACC championship game. So I don't have Miami on this graphic, but there still is a chance that Miami could make the playoffs and have a first-round bye. I have Ohio State next. Next up, Northwestern. That game's at Wrigley Field. And then the big one against Indiana. Now, that game is in Columbus. I just don't think that Indiana is able to beat Ohio State, especially in Columbus, right? And then they have Michigan. Not to say Michigan, right? So you got to think Ohio State wins out. But since they lost to Oregon, you know, those two teams would play each other again for the Big Ten championship game. And who knows? You know, I think if I had to go with Oregon or Ohio State again, I think I'd pick Ohio State. I have Penn State right now, which I don't feel good about, but based on how the criteria went last week, and as I explained, look at that. They had Penn State above Tennessee, right? And Tennessee above Indiana. So I kind of just stayed with that format right here on my own rankings. Does that make sense? Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana. Why would they jump any of those teams? They basically all did the same thing, which was win this past week. And then I put Notre Dame because in this other graphic, they have Notre Dame above Alabama. And then I put Alabama at the 10 spot. Ole Miss, I put them in there. And then I bumped Boise State out and put Georgia in at number 12. So I have the number of SEC teams. I have Texas, 1, Tennessee, 2, Alabama, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 teams. That's not going to happen. I would imagine actually that Tennessee probably gets bumped out when it's all said and done. And the reason for this is right now, when you look to the SEC current records, you have a 3-way tie for first. And then you have Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU, Missouri. All those teams have 2 losses. Is there anyone inside the comment box that thinks that Tennessee is going to beat Georgia in Athens? I don't. That would mean Tennessee has another loss. Texas and Texas A&M play at the back end of the season. One of those teams has to lose. That's going to be another 2-loss team. Now, bbalornothing.net basically built a genius and a calculator. We've talked about this before. And you punch in all the digits and the numbers, and the teams that are in red are the teams that are favorites, and then you click calculate standings right here. I think we shut the website down. Not us, but I think like the internet shut down this dude's website. This guy needs to be hired by ESPN. He built this formula. So if all this plays out, this is how with Texas beating Texas A&M, you would have Texas playing Alabama for the SEC championship game. Hey, Teletubby, yesterday, I think Nico announced that he's good to play in this game against Georgia. Good running quarterback, but the guy can't throw. So, look, and if Texas A&M wins, then it would be Alabama versus Texas A&M. So there's a good chance that Alabama makes the SEC championship game in the models that I have seen. We talked about it yesterday. I really feel that it's better for Alabama to make the playoffs as a 5, 6, 7, 8 seed as opposed to playing in the SEC championship game. I really feel that if Alabama doesn't win the SEC championship game, they will be penalized. I think if Alabama and Texas play, and who knows at that point in time, maybe Alabama, beats Texas. But that'll be another playoff play-in game. I think if Alabama was to beat Texas, and that's Texas's only loss, and Texas just has a loss to Georgia and Alabama, I think Texas still gets in, but I think if Alabama loses to Texas, should the scenario fall through, then Alabama with 3 losses will be out of the playoffs. That's why you kind of don't, it's weird to say this, but you would prefer that Alabama doesn't make the SEC championship game. If you talk to a coach, you got to play the best teams anyways, so I don't know. And yesterday we had a vote, and everybody voted that they're hoping that Alabama doesn't make the SEC championship game for what I just said, being penalized if you don't win that game. And then I came up with another, scenario yesterday that if Alabama somehow is seated at the 5 spot and Colorado beats BYU, which definitely could happen. This is a model of the Big 12. Let's say Colorado wins the Big 12 and they're number 4 and Alabama's number 5, and Alabama wins their opening round game. You could have Alabama and Colorado in Boulder as the 4 versus 5. That's all. I mean, that's far out rat poison, but I don't know. Colorado's playing some pretty good football. I think BYU is beatable. Coach Prime has those guys playing really good football. Colorado has Utah this weekend. Then they take on Kansas. Then they take on Oklahoma State. Colorado's won, like 6 in a row? Something like that? I know. In factual opinion, I agree, man. That's why, in the same thing with this conference. Where would any of these teams be in the SEC? The crazy thing is that Clemson, SMU, and Miami do not play each other. So you have to go to a tiebreaker should these teams finish out with 1 loss. Clemson and Miami, they don't play. So if they finish out with just 1 loss and SMU finishes out undefeated, then you have to go to the tiebreaker, which I think goes to Miami. Therefore, SMU and Miami will play. Oh my God. Teletubby. That's what I'm saying too. As a content creator, Colorado versus Alabama would be spectacular for the YouTube channel. Do you imagine having post-game Coach Prime on here? I mean, I'm not going to lie. I would be rooting for that 100%. I put together this list too. This is my pretenders and contenders. I circled the teams on this board that I think are pretenders. I'm not buying Indiana. I'm definitely not buying Penn State. And even though, this was weird for me. Even though Tennessee beat Alabama and beat them handedly, honestly, I still don't think Tennessee has enough to really win a championship this year. And you know what? I thought about circling Georgia too. Another team that collectively has been that team, but Carson Beck's play could be their downfall. What's the quick research? How many interceptions has he thrown in the last 4 games? I mean, sometimes in college football, you're only as good as how your quarterback is performing. Alabama fans know that better than anybody. Boise State not buying them. Notre Dame not buying them. Notre Dame hasn't played anybody. And Miami not buying them. Got some recruiting news. I'd stay close to your recruiting sites over these next couple days. I don't know when these things could happen, but I think they're going to happen. Sounds like things are getting really hot. For Caleb Cunningham to flip from Alabama to Ole Miss. Look, am I worried about that? Will that hurt? Yeah, for sure. Caleb Cunningham is a must get, 100%. Silver lining is everybody from Alabama's wide receiving unit could come back. I know that's not going to be the case because guys are going to transfer out, period. That's how it works. I would imagine there's some guys already that have played that want to transfer to some other spots. And when you're looking at wide receivers specifically, I think that you look to Ja'Cory Brooks. What has he done, right? At Louisville. I think he's done a really good job. What he catched for like 41 receptions this year. Malik Benson, he went to Florida State, 23 receptions, something like that. Isaiah Bond left. Who are the other wide receivers to leave out? Trayshawn Holden, he's doing okay at Oregon. I think things worked out the best for Ja'Cory Brooks, but not even really on TV. Caleb Cunningham, I think, would play next year. But, I mean, look, all these guys are returning. Even guys that we haven't talked about. Jalen Hell, Jaron Hamilton. You got Latsier Brooks coming in. Amari Jefferson redshirted. Rico Scott. Ryan Williams. Hollywood. Oh, I have no. Where did Billingsley go? I thought Jahlil Billingsley was going to have a nice career here. That wasn't the case. And then I think incoming to Alabama is going to be Ivan Taylor. So he was committed to Notre Dame, then he committed to Michigan, and then he would commit at some point in time to Bama, being a flip. And I think this would also be impactful as well for the Alabama secondary. And then also it would be Alabama's first commitment from the state of Florida, which is interesting, right? Coach Saban made Florida a pipeline. Looks like Coach Kalen DeBoer has done a really good job retaining ties to the West. What are they bringing in? 5 guys from California? Something like that? So anyways, something to keep watch on the recruiting sites. I would follow, all your recruiting sites closely. And what's crazy is December 4th is signing day. Is early signing day. December 4th. Everything keeps getting pushed up. Imagine how busy things are for head football coaches in December. I can't. Not to mention, you also have Christmas with your family. Good luck celebrating that. You have SEC championship game, early signing period, transfer portal, on the road preparing for the playoffs. Crazy. I have this graphic as well that I put up yesterday. Coach Kalen DeBoer in his first season. This schedule has been really difficult. And I put the rankings based off where the teams were when Alabama played them. For example, when Alabama played Georgia, they were number 2. When Alabama played LSU, they were number 15, Missouri. Lost to number 11, Tennessee, and lost to unranked Vanderbilt. But it's been a hell of a season. And he looks pretty presidential. Oceanic Jazz, is that right? Carson Beck with 9 interceptions in his last 4 games. Oh my goodness. That's wild. But I guess, if you're looking at Alabama too, you could be like, well, your quarterback hasn't thrown a touchdown, in the last 2 games. Well, what have you done for me lately? Guy ran for almost 204 touchdowns against LSU. He was an SEC Offensive Player of the Week. I keep going back to the stat. They ran the football over 80 times for 583 yards and 10 touchdowns in the last 2 games. It's going to be hard to stop, right? And the Alabama defense, I mean, this picture is so dope. These pictures, you can get these from the University of Alabama, their official site. Deontay Lawson. These are 2 players we have not talked about enough this season. Guy on the left, Deontay Lawson, and the guy on the right, Damani Jackson. Please go support Damani Jackson. What's up, Jack? I appreciate you. Jack is saying, Kyle, I'd rather us not play in the SEC championship game. Yeah, and I think that's how most Alabama football fans feel, but I think if you were to ask Coach Kalen DeBoer, he probably wouldn't answer one way or another. I think he'd just talk about playing and preparing for the next team. And that's the same thing that Coach Saban would say too, right? I mean, Coach Saban isn't going to shy away from competition. But the thing that we look at outside is I think they would be penalized if they don't win the SEC championship game. I'm not scared of competition. I'm really not. I'm just saying that I know that that committee hold Alabama to a different standard, which works and which works against Alabama. Especially when you have teams fighting to get in on the back end, like a 1-loss Miami, a 1-loss SMU, a 2-loss Ole Miss, right? I appreciate you guys being here. I have news as it happens on the YouTube channel, and I'm live every single morning at 10. Thursday through Sunday, I will be on the road, but I will be having my show. So I appreciate you guys rocking with me throughout this weekend. You got Mercer coming up on Saturday. The game is at 1 p.m. Central Time, and the game is on ESPN Plus. So I think if you have YouTube TV, you should be able to watch the game because it's on the SEC Plus. You have to do some research on that, but I think if you have YouTube TV, you should be good to go. You just might have to watch it. I don't know. Don't get lost in the weeds on that. But I think if you have YouTube TV, you can still watch the game that's coming Saturday. Check with your local provider. I'm going to do the same thing because it's on ESPN Plus, and I'm going to be on the road. Neil's saying just run the ball. Absolutely, man. And Josh is right. You got basketball on Friday. So, look, as news happens, I got you covered right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining my morning segment. Today is Tuesday, November 12th. Go back and watch the beginning of that video where Coach Saban's, a couple years ago talking about this rat poison game. Jack is saying, Kyle, Tennessee and Vandy lost. Make us realize if we don't play at our best, we lose. 100%. Yeah, especially in this Shark Tank of the SEC. Rocketown is saying ESPN Plus, SEC Plus. Yeah, there you go. It's the same thing, I think. Man, a lot of football left and a lot more to cover. So thank you very much for subscribing to the channel and being here and rocking with me all this week. As news happens, I got you covered. Have an amazing day. Be good people. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, and I'm wishing you the best. Coming to you from Hollywood, Alabama, Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube.